our garden wall. I hear the sirens call. You can have what you want. Yeah, you can have it all over our garden wall.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 4 of series 2 of Bay City Polars, which is a music podcast where we are setting out to try and establish what's the greatest 40 Scottish albums ever made. So, say, fourth episode now, so we've been rattling through for about 3 or 4 months now how things have been going, and we'll have a wee chat about how we've been doing that as we go through the podcast. Introductions first. First of all, we have with us again my friend Caroline Binney. Good evening, Caroline.
Good evening, Brian, and good evening, anybody who's watching.
Absolutely. Nice to see you again. Thanks for coming on in the weather and all that. And we have a blast from the past, a special guest, honorary adopted Bay City Polar, amongst many other things, and occasional wordsmith for Into Creative, John Welsh. John, good evening.
Good evening, Brian.
Lovely to see you again, mate.
Thank you very much, and you and Caroline as well, and anybody that's tuning in.
And thanks for also coming on because Colin and Donna, for various reasons, can't make it tonight. So it really helps us keep the chat going, and hopefully we'll have the guys back on for any future episodes. Cool, right. So very quick summary of where we are, and then we'll have a wee chat about maybe where we're going. So for the uninitiated, I think we started with 143 albums nominated, which we then did a vote on them all on X. We ended up getting a list of 56. Caroline will keep me right here if I get that wrong. We decided to put 56 into groups of 4, like a World Cup type draw thing. And for the last 3 weekends, I think we've been doing group voting where top 2 in every group go through, and a bit of a kind of lucky loser thing behind all that. It's been good fun. I think we've been averaging about a couple of thousand votes per group. 25,000 votes, I think, in the last 2 or 3 weeks has been really good. So a lot of interest, a lot of debate. And last Saturday that finished that. So that was us done all the group stuff, which is a nice place to have a chat. So if you've been looking at it, Caroline, I'll start with yourself. What's your take on how all the group stuff went?
Well, I think when you look at what went through, those in pot 1 did pretty well, as I think we would have expected them to. And then it tails out a bit once you get down into pot 4. Having said that, I still think it's a great list, and some great albums have emerged through the process.
They have. A couple have missed out as well, which we'll touch on, I guess. John, have you been keeping an eye on it?
Yeah, keeping an eye on it, voting in all of them.
Well done. Thank you.
These things never fail to amaze me how stupid some people are, and the fact that certain albums don't even get through to this stage. So
Yeah, so you've got the first,
more
you're right.
fool them.
We lost sort of 90 albums, didn't we, from the first long list, if you want, all on voting sort of levels and stuff. I think the last time we did talk about like kind of Joker albums and stuff, we talked about wild cards, and I think the general consensus was that we were just going to let it roll because the more we started to kind of irritate it, the more difficult it got to kind of keep it right. But you're right, John, we lost a whole bunch of belters, particularly sort of latter day stuff from the kind of, the noughties and the tens and stuff, which was a bit rubbish.
Yeah, I think certainly for me, no young fathers in there. People need to go and buy that album and listen to it, and then they'll change their mind because it is a belter.
Couldn't agree more. Young Fathers, Hamish Hawk, King Creer, so a whole bunch of guys that you cross the road to see all day long. But as I say, it's just the way it is. And maybe we did say that there's maybe like a sub podcast conversation at some point to do something that's maybe a bit more specific to that time period, to give them a chance, I guess, really, because they're great records and they should be celebrated. But anyway, we end up with 56 and we did the voting on that. As Caroline says, most of the sort of bigger hitters were doing well. but not all of them. You know, I think we lost. What did we lost? We lost the Orange Juice, didn't we? You Can't Hide Your Love Forever. Didn't finish second in its group, which I was kind of quite surprised at. Did that clash with something? Did that clash with
I can't remember what was in that group, but
Aztec Camera or something?
some
Maybe.
groups were pretty hard to call.
Yeah, I can't remember. I was really surprised at that. What was the other one? Boy with Arab Strap didn't make it through. Treasure, the Cockatoo Twins didn't make it through, albeit they got another one in. You know, they're pretty strong albums, aren't they? They're not outliers, you know.
Very
So
difficult.
yeah. So but you know, we ended up with 32. So I guess, you know, the main crux of the chat the chat tonight is to decide what to do going forward with that. So let me just pull up the kind of list as it is after we did all those groups, and that might stimulate a wee bit of chat. Just bear with me. It happens. It's always good fun. Cool. Can we see that?
Yep.
Magic. Okay. So I know there's a lot on there. So let me just explain what's there, and then we can have a chat about it. Right. So the top half, the first list of greens and reds that you can see is the result of all the voting that we did. So at the moment, you can see pot one's got a full list of greens, and then it sort of filters down, you know, towards pot four, which only had the Travis album that went through on the initial vote. So those greens are 32 albums. So if we do nothing, that's the vote. So we'll do some sort of draw on those. We can chat about that, and we'll crack on. Within that 32, there are 9 artists that have got 2 albums on the list. And you probably remember we decided to restrict all the guys to maximum 2. And we did some vote-offs early doors for that. So again, mainly big hitters that you would imagine, but there's quite a few of them. I've got 2 on there. So the question to you guys is, what do we do with that? Are we happy just to let it roll, do a draw, crack on to the next stage? Do you feel there's a disproportionate representation, and does that affect the overall kind of quality of the list? Discuss. Caroline.
Well, you probably know what I'm going to say, Brian, which is I'm all for as much diversity as we can get into this as possible. And I think
Okay.
if we, the last time we decided we would get rid of albums where, there was representation of 3, so it would seem consistent to get rid of the representation of 2 this time, because I suppose what happens is that you avoid, bands going up against themselves with different albums in the later stages.
Okay, I'll come back to that thought in a minute.
And also, if you drop them down, I think the replacements that are coming up, albeit that they didn't get as many votes as some of the others, they're all very, very strong pieces of work.
Yeah, we can touch on that in a second. Maybe that's part of the debate. John, give us your wisdom on this, mate.
Yeah, I've had a wee think about this, and I mean, I think there's 2 or 3 ways you can go with this. One would be, bear in mind these albums have been voted through, right? Rightly or wrongly, depending on your point of view. But so they've been voted through. So my initial thought is, well, that's what the public have said. So therefore you've got to respect that and put them in again. However, there's 9 bands with 2 albums.
Yep.
Right. So I think an option here would be each band with 2 albums faces off against herself.
Okay.
Right. So for example, only because it's the first one that I saw there, the Waterboys, This Is the Sea versus Fisherman's Blues. That's your vote. Aztec Camera, Highland Hard Rain versus Love. That's your vote, right? You go through that. That gives you 9. We'll go through, right? That still leaves 14 others, and you do a random choices, 7 albums, two against each. So then 14 go through plus your 9, and then that's into your 16, and then you can go on then with whatever you decide, whether that's a random draw or back into groups or whatever it might be. I don't know, but that I think that would, cut out the doublers, get down to the strongest album, and it's keeping all the strongest albums in that top 32 without having to dip into, frankly, albums that haven't been strong enough to get through to this stage to try and put those in. Because the likelihood is they won't get through anyway.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, absolutely get Carolyn's point that, well, actually that gives you a broader number of different bands and stuff like that. But I come back to the point, they weren't strong enough in the first place. So I think it'd be a bit more.
I think what Caroline might have been saying was, I think he's might be agreeing here, which is potentially find a way to take out 9 doublers.
Yep.
And from that list that you can see there, all the Reds in effect, we'll then go and get 9 albums from the Reds. That will bring us back to the 32 again. I think that's what Caroline was saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure of the logistics of doing that, but that was kind of broadly what I meant.
So on the credibility of that then, basis of we've been doing this with our pals on X, we'll be having good fun with it. Guys are good, we have a debate, everyone agrees to disagree, which is why we're doing it. So the credibility of a list losing 9 of those and then arguing that it's a reasonably good representation of some of the best Scottish albums ever, what do you think it dilutes it too much?
I think my personal view is you should go Waterboys versus Waterboys, Big Country versus Big Country, Simple Minds versus Simple Minds. That'll get you down to 9, and then you do 7 times 2 out of the other 14 that are left. Your 9 plus your 7 gives you 16 albums.
Okay.
That's my suggestion. But say, I'm sure there'll be other people.
I'm glad you come on, John. Thanks for that.
I'm sure you do. There's a wee headache for you.
So I'd say Colin and Donna aren't on, so Donna's not come back to me. Colin was fairly open-minded about it. I think, he, like yourself, John, he saw sort of both sides really. They're in on merit, they're great albums. Just let them roll through, do the knockout, see how it goes. But we're losing other albums that are great as well. And would it be a better representation of Scottish music to put other albums back in from the pots? Question mark. So he was okay about it. Suggested maybe we actually ask the guys on X whether we should do a doubler or knockout or not. Not sure what they'd say about that. Don't know. They voted them in, so I guess they maybe argue they should stay in, maybe. I don't know. And of course, you end up with a list that whatever you do, I'll use the Blue Mile because they're always quite emotive. So you do that way, then one of Hats and Walk Across the Rooftops, one of those two goes out.
Why the motive, Brian?
I've just used them as an example because they get well supported. They both polled very well in their groups. When we did it, there's a lot of love for them. They're respected, great Scottish albums. So if you lose one of them, are you weakening down the fact that a lot of people think there should be 2 on that list? It's only 40 albums, remember. So I think if we were doing, say, 100, no doubt you'd put them all in. But
personally, I wouldn't have any Blue Nile album in.
I subscribe to that theory as well.
And that's why I use them as an example, because you guys you're outliers on that. But but there are a lot. There is a lot. I'm a big Waterboys fan, right? But I would put the same argument in as well that do they deserve 2 albums in the final? I'm pretty laid back about it all. It's all a bit of fun. So I don't. As long as we can keep the voting going and it's a sort of positive outcome and we end up with a great list, which I think we probably will do, one way or another. Can you see both of the lists there on the screen? Just checking that. You can. So just as an example, and this kind of depends on how we play it out, but the bottom screen is in effect what would happen if we took out the weaker of the two albums based on the first votes that they did there in the group vote. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'll just use the Waterboys because I can see a red one. So This Is the Sea got a higher polling in its group than Fisherman Blues did. So I'm just
Could that be tactical though,
but
based on
possibly,
the
John.
group?
Yeah, maybe, and maybe if we have a vote off, it expedites all that for sure. But that's kind of what would happen. One of them's got to go anyway, hasn't it? If we have a vote off,
Yep.
so you take off Fisherman's Blues, for example, Hats, a whole bunch of other albums that go through the vote off. The upside, of course, is that you then start to put back in other albums that at the moment aren't in. Jerry Rafferty, Average White Band, Alex Harvey, Skids, Trash Can Sinatra's, Las Vegas. They're great albums, right? So those are the albums that, if we just went to the pot and says where were the ones that did the best from the other ones that didn't go through, those were ones that you'd pick and put through. So you can see it does put a fair bit of difference to the overall list. I don't know if it's better or fairer, or I don't really know. So you're saying, I think that given the choice, you would go back and have the Waterboys versus each other process, and then
Yeah, I think that is maybe. I think it's a good bit of fun.
yeah,
If nothing else.
great fun.
And also, I suppose it's the electorate as such making the decision rather than, us making an arbitrary decision just, to take out the doublers.
Agreed. I'm happy with that. I thought it was certainly the guys next have been great. I mean, as I say, they're getting a lot of votes through, and lots of opinions as well, which is lovely. And also, we keep making the point how great all the albums are. There's not many duds kicking about. So,
Just a couple.
Well, I think it's just
like-
ones you
like-
like
like
and
the
ones
Blue
you
Nile.
don't like.
like the Blue Nile, right?
I'm saying nothing.
But I mean, I don't know if you do. If you do like a Manchester list, say for example, I bet there's like amazing list. If you did a 40 of Manchester albums, there must be some amazing, or Liverpool or London, whatever. But Scotland does a fairly rich tapestry of different types of music. So I do like the idea of trying to get across the genres and the decades and stuff as much as we can, which that would help us to do. So. But don't be shouting at me, for example, Caroline, when obviously one of the Jesus and Mary Chain albums goes away.
Well, as long as the right one goes away, that's fine.
Yeah, you want to keep Darklands, right?
No.
I
Although
think
it's a good album.
I thought you see John gave me a hard time on that. So, cool. I will take that back to the guys on X, and hopefully this weekend we will try and get that vote off set up and see how it goes. And we're all busy this weekend as well with gigs, so no doubt we'll have a bit of chatting about it as we're out and about. Any other kind of thoughts or comments on that?
If you do that, right, that will give you 9 albums, and then you've still got another 14 albums from the single nominated bands. So you're going to need to do 7 votes there as well. And
Yeah,
you'll
we
need to decide how you want to do that. Do you do a random draw, or do you base it? How do you base it? The one with the highest percentage against the one with the lowest, which seems a bit David and Goliath. I just prefer the randomness.
The randomness might throw up some surprises.
Yeah.
Depending on what gets drawn against, each record.
It's an interesting point, because I think what we were saying before was, I think Colin was quite keen on the idea of a kind of random FA Cup style knockout after doing the groups, which makes perfect sense. But of course, if you left the doublers in, there's every chance they would draw each other. Or some of them might, it's because it's an all-in draw. So I think, natural cleansing would happen by the nature of a draw. I don't think we would see it as such. But yeah, you're right, John. If we do it that way, we have to find a way to fill the gap. So,
well, yeah, I mean, it's just, you've got your 18 doublers. That goes down to 9.
Yeah.
And you've got 14 left. So you've got 7 groups of 2 albums that go. So you just draw those out.
Yeah.
and then you've got your 9 plus your 7 gives you your 16. And that's your nice number to then get down. Do the same again to get you down to 8, and your 4 and your 2 and whatever.
Bob's your uncle. Yeah, and of course the as we cleanse it out, we can't create more doublers if that makes sense.
No,
Yeah,
no, you can't.
so that just takes a wee bit of tidying up, but yeah, it's easy done. I've had a wee look at it. It's not that difficult to do. So yeah, I'm cool on the idea. I think it worked really well. So, and if it doesn't, I can blame yourself, John and Caroline, for suggesting it, which obviously I will do. So, and you can defend yourself for sure. Okay, cool. I'll pick that one up. And if we do that, I'll do that. Try and do that this weekend. So obviously we would then do the fill the gap one probably weekend after, I guess. So we're probably a couple of weeks away from getting to that final names in the hat thing. So we might have a very quick podcast to kind of sign all that off at the time, if we need to. All right. Let me just come out of this again. Don't like looking at slides unless we have to. Cool. Are we back on screen? Yeah.
Yep.
Magic.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. I didn't mention earlier on, just wanted to mention as well, we did that um, audit of the albums to try and get 12 out of 12 from the last group voting last weekend. So just a wee shout out to the other John McDonnell.
Yes, I saw he won it.
I saw that. Yeah, he did, but he lives in Holland, So we talked to John to try and work out how to get the books to him. But yeah, but well done, mate. 12 out of 12. John, you were what, 10, I think?
10, yeah.
10. Close, but no
Mhm.
cigar, mate.
I know.
Can have another
Okay.
go. You can have a go
Think
to
it-
vote. Can have a go to vote off this weekend.
I think I went for, who did I go for? Average White Band, I think was one of them. And maybe Alec Harvey, maybe. Don't know.
Well, they might both
Don't
be
know what
back
it
in.
was, but
They might both back in if we jig the votes back up again and do a vote
no,
off and stuff.
they've scarred me for life. So I never want to see their name again.
Very good. And we've also got a couple of other kind of little things running. So we started it all with a kind of adopt an album idea. So I don't want to update that because I can only do it once we know what the 32 albums are. So I'll update that. But that was good fun. And we said we would get a kind of reasonable prize for someone who ends up getting the winning album on that one. So the guys that all get the big hitters will probably be unhappy if they're going to lose 9 of them. But that's just the way it is. And also we've got the panel running with a couple. So the credibility of the panel was to get a couple of albums that they thought would stick it out through the chat. So we asked them for a top 5 nomination and then one to make the top 40. Caroline, you were Island for top 5
I was.
and you were Sulk, I think.
I was.
You were.
So my horses are going well at the moment.
Your horses are going very well. What was
Another
Caroline?
album I wouldn't have in my top 40.
Which
Oof.
one?
Sulk.
Sulk.
I actually prefer the Affectionate Punch, but I knew it wouldn't win on the vote.
Yeah. There was a lot of love for Sulk when you chatted about it the other day, Caroline.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, for sure. Colin was Rooftops. You'll be pleased to know, John. And
Do you know what? It's not a bad shout because it is popular.
It is popular.
I can't deny the popularity of both those albums.
Absolutely, yeah. And Trapped and Unwrapped was his kind of outlier, which is currently out, but possibly could come back in again because of that vote off thing.
That should not influence his vote.
That's a good point. I never thought of that. And what was Donna? Donna was Heaven or Las Vegas, which is in, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep, which is great. And Meet Danny Wilson, which isn't.
Mm.
I don't think there's a way for it to go back in, but I'm happy to look at that. So, yep. So they're hanging on with at least one each and 2 for Caroline. So well done, Caroline.
What were yours again, Brian? I can't remember.
I didn't do them this time.
Oh, did you not do them? No.
I got so much hassle the last time. I think can't remember, I picked Hole in the Moon for the songs or something. I think I picked, so I was second. Because you remember Delamici were number 1 and
Yeah.
all that stuff, right? So, yeah. And as I say, we've got the jingle, so I'm going to put that out there and see if we can get a couple more jingles as well. because Stephen Peebles did it for us, which was lovely, from the morning early. So big thanks to Stephen, and hopefully Stephen or somebody else will do a couple more for us. So as long as they're not too rude, we'll get them in there. And I think that's us really. So I think next steps are we get a vote off set up for those 9 doublers. We do that. We see how that lands. We dodge some bullets, and we get going with some more votes. How does that sound?
Sounds perfect.
Cool.
There you go.
Good stuff. Have I missed anything? I always check with Caroline at this point because I nearly always miss something.
I don't think so.
Okay, that makes a change. We talked about a mascot the last time. Do you remember that?
We did. Well, that was Colin's suggestion.
Well, he was full of suggestions the last
Yeah,
time.
uh-huh.
Yeah, and then he disappears on us. So I didn't quite get the mascot squared off, but I think it was the idea, it was a kind of World Cup-y thing, John. We're just trying to kind of, align to that idea. So I'll maybe put that out there again. But we didn't ask for a jingle, but got one. So it kind of it offsets itself a little bit, which was great. So cool. All right.
Where is this mascot going to be? Sitting on your shoulder when you have the next podcast or something? Is that the plan?
It's probably like a Paul Buchanan, like
right,
something like that.
right,
Yeah.
Cut out figure.
Hey,
Listen, he's got probably one of the best voices in Scottish music. So it's just, music's just it just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, because Rush aren't Scottish, I'm not particularly interested in the vote, as you know, John. So, I'm fairly neutral to all this.
Of course.
John, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate.
All right.
Lovely to see
Enjoyed
you again.
it.
And don't be a stranger. Hopefully we'll get you jump back on again as we get near the end of the big stuff, and see if you've got a view on that when we do it. Caroline, thank you very much as ever. Really appreciate it, and give me some cover this weekend when the debates start, will you? Because I'm sure they will. And we'll get the podcast out over the next couple of days as well. All right.
You probably get ambushed at Friends again.
Yeah, I'll need to be buying a few pints, I'm sure. All right. Listen, hopefully I'll see you guys at the gig as well. That'd be lovely. All right.
Yep. Look out for you.
Yeah. Lovely to see you again. Take care, and we'll catch you soon. All right.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
See you now. Bye.
Over our garden wall, I hear the sirens call. You can have what you want.